I'm Ellyn Fogelmiller.
I'm Ellyn Hefter.
And today we are launching our podcast, Between Two Ellens. And really the goal of our podcast, and when Ellyn and I've had conversations over the last couple of months, is that there are so many policies and topics and community ideas that we hear about as legislators, but we don't get the opportunity to dig in deep and learn more about what's happening in our community and how these policies would positively or possibly negatively impact the communities we serve.
That's part of it. Because our job, we talk about the bill, but sometimes we don't hear about how the bill and its effects. And so we've done a couple of episodes already. We've done a couple of them we talk about right to work, and we've talked about suicide and domestic violence. So you can see all of those, but there might be some. We'll probably get a film, and I guess this is a video podcast, and we'll do that on Fridays. And even during session, we may have to do an emergency between two Ellens like today.
So we're going to switch gears just a little bit. I think a conversation that we've been having a lot with our constituents, between legislators, is having to do with the government shutdown. And most immediately right now, SNAP benefits, which will on November 1st, tomorrow, not renew for the over 600,000 Oklahomans in our state that depend on SNAP.
And we get calls from our constituents or the people in the state, even people that know me that aren't my constituents have talked to me about it. And so we hear a lot of conversation about what's happening federally, but there are some things that we can do in our state, in our positions. And that's more of what we would like to talk about today, maybe.
Right. So we know that SNAP is a 1 to 9 versus a food bank. So we've had a lot of conversations of having food drives and trying to provide immediate food to those in need. But what we haven't really discussed is that SNAP covers 9 times the amount of food that a emergency food pantry can provide. And so I know you've had more conversations, Ellyn, about as a state, what kind of resources that we could provide that maybe provide additional resources to community members that are impacted.
Yeah, and it's also too, if we're focusing on this one piece, which it's big, we need consistent food. That's something that we need. So, but there's a lot of other things that we might be taking away from by putting all of our efforts towards this, and so that's going to create another big hole. And it seems like we can get together a little bit as a state. I have heard, and we'll maybe talk about a little bit about special session, maybe what we can do. The governor has talked about being a neighbor, which I think is great, but I don't believe that's good if with all that influx of money that goes into our grocery stores, and people can get all over the state instead of having to go someplace to pick up food that maybe doesn't serve, or it's difficult. So we could talk a little bit about special session, but I think that there are some things that we probably could do that we're not looking at.
Yeah. So I think we are calling for a special session and calling for an opportunity for leadership to get in a room and decide what funds are available, how those funds can be spent. We know there's furloughed employees at the state and federal level. We know about childcare subsidies. We know about healthcare cliff. There's a lot happening right now. And I think as a state, we have an obligation to meet and discuss and help support those impacted by the shutdown.
I also like how this relates to our podcast too, is it seems that people have this idea that we all have to be together on something for it to work. And I think that the discussion that we should be having right now is maybe some of those pain points that I don't want to talk about, or maybe someone in a different party or someone that feels differently has. But that's the only way that we're going to take this from just maybe solving a couple of weeks to how we can look into how we can help each other months ahead. So those kind of things I think that are being left out of the conversation is getting us all together, even if you don't like what they're going to say or maybe their opinion. But I do learn something from things that I don't know. And earlier talking to a friend, we talked about maybe some partnerships that might not be likely partnerships that are happening, because to solve a problem, we've got to look at the problem first instead of looking about what we want to do or maybe what other people think that we should be doing.
So we are excited to launch the podcast. We hope that you'll join us. We hope that you'll email us. You'll go to our website, and your feedback will definitely help drive the conversations we have.
Between2ellens.com is the website, and we do have an Instagram. But we would love your questions as well. What we end with, which we don't have a question to end this little podcast, but we always ask our guests to ask us a question. Maybe I should ask you a question, but hopefully you guys will send in some questions too to ask.